So now, part 3, it takes place 50 years after this, which is 100 years after part 1.
It should be pretty modern society then, right?
Yep.
Mm.
They have cell phones and planes, like commercial planes. Part 3 is named Stardust Crusaders because essentially the plot of part 3 is that Joseph's grandson, Jotaro, and a bunch of other allies, they
Mm.
trek through this whole journey to find Dio's mansion to kill him.
Dio's still alive? What?
Dio's still alive.
Okay.
Alright. So we get introduced to Holly Joestar, who is Joseph's daughter.
Hmm.
And Joseph is old now. He looks like this.
So he's still alive in part three?
He's still alive. And he's actually one of the main characters. So Holly's son, Jotaro, got into prison. And this is our main character, our main JoJo for this part. His name is Kujo Jotaro. I mean Jotaro Kujo. And he is like this delinquent character who swears a lot
Okay.
and is very, very violent.
Mhm.
And he doesn't have Hamon. From this point forward, Hamon is like non-existent essentially.
Is there any explanation to that?
Because Hamon was only used to fight like the vampires, right?
Hmm.
So once there are no more vampires, there's like no point in learning Hamon anymore.
So people thought that vampires didn't exist already and that they had won.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Jotaro is now. I'm sorry. He's not in prison. He's in jail. Do you know the difference?
No.
So, jail is like when you're still in the police station, like the place where they keep you in a police station. While
Hmm.
prison is like the separate building that's meant to hold inmates. So Jotaro had beaten up a bunch of delinquents from a different school, but even though the police said he was free to go, he doesn't want to leave the cell. And Holly was worried, like, why don't you want to leave the cell? And he just says, you won't understand even if I explain it to you. So Holly decides to call Joseph. So Jotaro says that there is an evil spirit following him that's able to bring him stuff. Like for example, he inside the cell, he had like a radio, he had a bunch of magazines, he had beer, he had cigarettes, but he didn't leave the cell. Like this mysterious spirit brought all of these things inside the cell for him.
Okay.
And even if he tries to shoot himself, the spirit like stops the bullet in midair to protect Jotaro.
Hmm.
And because he doesn't understand what it is and he doesn't want to hurt people unnecessarily, he decides to stay in the cell.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
But Joseph shows up and tells him that it's not an evil spirit. It's you can read this. It's a powerful apparition created by your own life energy. And because it stands next to you, it's called a stand. So this is the power system of part 3 onwards. It's called stands.
Hmm.
They are essentially your fighting spirit manifested. Non-stand users, which is people who don't have a stand, they can't see the stands, but they can see the effects of the stand. Like for example, if Jotaro uses this guy to punch a hole in the wall, you won't be
Hmm.
able to see the fist that's punching the wall, but you're able to see the hole. And for example, this person's stand is named Magician's Red. He is able to manipulate fire. You can't actually see the fire, but you can feel the environment slowly heating up. So Joseph brought his friend, whose name is Avdol, to get Jotaro out of his cell. And in the first part of part 3, all of the stands are named after tarot cards. That's why his name is Magician's Red, because of the magician card. Right, so eventually they get Jotaro out of jail, and they go to a cafe to talk about like what's happening in the world.
Hmm.
So a bunch of fishermen they found this coffin in the water. When they open it up, Dio was inside. So what Dio decided to do was he decided to take control of Jonathan's body.
Hmm.
So he
Hmm.
cut off Jonathan's head and he grafted his own head into the body.
Okay.
I forgot to put a thing for Joseph's stand.
Yes.
His stand
What?
name is Hermit Purple, and his power is called Spirit Photography.
You have to explain that.
Okay, so imagine a physical digital camera. I guess it's not a digital camera, but like when you take a picture, the picture like actually gets printed out immediately. I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called too.
So imagine that kind of camera.
Hmm.
And his power is that once he punches a camera until it breaks, a
Mhm.
picture comes out. And every time Joseph uses his power, the same picture always gets printed out. And it's a picture of Dio.
How is that supposed to be useful?
No, no, it tells him that Dio is alive.
That's the ability.
Yes, that's the ability.
Just to confirm whether Dio's dead or alive.
Yes. I think it's like he's able to use spirit photography to locate other things also,
Hmm.
but because Dio took Jonathan's body, I need to explain a different concept now. So in the world of JoJo, bloodlines have like this spiritual connection with with one another. Like for example, later on in part three, we meet this mother and this child, and whatever damage was inflicted onto the kid, the mother would experience the same damage, even though they were literally countries apart. So they have like this sort of spiritual connection with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when Dio took over Jonathan's body, his body actually sent out like warnings to everyone with a Joestar blood,
Okay.
which is why Joseph now has a stand. Because Dio got Jonathan's body, all of the Joestar descendants, they have now obtained stands, which is why
Yeah.
Jotaro also got a stand.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants Jotaro's help to beat Dio, essentially. Jotaro's honestly kind of confused about all this, and he just wants to go to school, you know? So he goes to school and he meets an enemy stand user whose name is Noriaki Kakyoin. His stand name is Hierophant Green and it can shoot emeralds. And he decides to fight Jotaro, and Jotaro wins. But it turns out that this guy was being controlled with this thing, which is called a flesh bud. So he actually went to Egypt on holiday like a couple months ago, and he
Mm-hmm.
met Dio. And
Mm-hmm.
Dio was just recruiting all the strong stand users of the world, so they work
So
under
that
him.
was so that was like oh that was after the he got lifted out of the thing.
Yes, I think he got lifted out of the thing. That was
Mm.
like a year ago or something.
And then
And
he just
like six
escaped
months
from that.
after that,
Uh-huh.
that's when the Joestar descendants got a stand, and that's when Joseph knew about it. Dio implanted his own cells into this person's brain, essentially.
Yeah.
And you need to remove it, want to be freed of his mind control.
Mm-hmm.
So they do that, and now he's a good guy now. Remember when I told you every Joestar had a stand?
Yes.
So at this point, we only thought that Joseph and Jotaro had a stand. It turns out that Jotaro's mom is also manifesting a stand.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
because she doesn't have a strong fighting spirit, she wasn't able to control her stand. So her stand is actually killing her because she can't control it. Because they were gifted stands, because of the warning signal that Jonathan's body had given out to the descendants,
Mm-hmm.
the only way to make the signal stop is to kill Dio once and for all. And now they're on a journey to go kill Dio. Alright, so from one of the photos of Dio, Jotaro uses his stand, Star Platinum, to look at the picture really well. And he sees that there's a fly. And using Star Platinum's insane precision, he draws a sketch of this fly.
Wait, so the picture came from like the other guy's ability, right?
Yes,
Where he punches the camera.
yes.
So that just like shows him like where Dio is at and like so it's basically like a spy camera.
It,
Is it?
yeah, kind of. I mean, it doesn't show where he is. It just shows a picture of him.
Like does the picture change every time? Like if you do it now and then you do it later, it's like a picture of him now and a picture of him later?
I think
Or
it's the same picture every time.
oh, it's the same
It's the
picture.
same picture every time. It's so dumb.
Yeah. But like what is special about that picture that it is chosen instead of like the hundreds of other pictures it could have been?
They just decided to take the most recent picture. And
Mm-hmm.
Jotaro says, there has to be some sort of clue in this picture. And then he spots a fly in the
Okay.
picture. But, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the fly in the picture is way too small, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he decides to use Star Platinum to draw a bigger version of the fly. And it turns out the fly is native to Cairo only, in Egypt. That's where they know where Dio is. Dio is in Egypt. And they decided to head out to Egypt. And they did a really smart thing, actually. So, what they decided to do, they decided to take a flight from Japan to Cairo. But because Dio took over Jonathan's body, he actually has access to Jonathan's stand also. So Dio has his own stand, which is unknown at this point in time.
Okay.
But he also has Jonathan's stand.
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same thing as Joseph.
The camera thing?
It's also spirit photography, but Dio is just way better at using spirit photography, so he doesn't need to smash a camera.
Wait, so what picture does he get? What picture
So
does...
he gets a crystal orb, and he's actually able to control what he wants to see.
Oh,
So he
okay.
uses it to spy on the Crusaders, and Dio sees that they're on this flight. So he
Mm-hmm.
sends an assassin to the plane,
Okay.
and the plane nearly crashes.
Mm-hmm.
And they land in Shanghai, I think. Dio knows where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So now that he knows that they're all in Shanghai, he decides to send this guy, another assassin, to go after them. His name is John Pierre Polnareff. People just call him Polnareff. He's also being mind controlled by Dio, and his stand is named Silver Chariot. And his power is that he stabs really fast. The powers are really simple, and after getting rid of this guy's flesh bud, he becomes an ally. So it turns out that his little sister was killed by a person with two right hands.
Wait.
So instead of
So like,
having a right and a left hand, they're both right hands.
so wait. So it's like a spider, but like two. Wait.
What?
So
A
it's like
spider?
two arms on one side. Is
No.
that what it means?
Like look at your hands. Look at your hands.
Yeah.
So your left arm, your thumb is pointing to the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine that like all the fingers on your left arm are like in reverse position. So where your thumb is, that's where your pinky is.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
super weird to think about.
So his sister was killed by a man with two right arms,
Huh.
and he wants to get revenge. But while he was traveling to find out who this assassin is, he gets mind controlled by Dio. So now he also has a reason on why he wants to kill Dio. And because they got attacked on the plane, and they don't want to endanger any more innocent people, they decide to travel by other means of transport. Like, for
Wait.
example, from Shanghai to Hong Kong, they use a car,
Mm-hmm.
and
I
from
was about to say, can't they just like use like a private plane or something so that they don't harm people and like no one else gets on that are evil potentially?
why
Only
why
them?
you raise a really good point, honestly, Wilson. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah.
Because
They have
later
like
on, they get a private submarine.
they could have just used private planes from the start.
Exactly. Oh my god. Okay.
You never
Araki.
thought of that?
I never thought of that.
They just had to lengthen it.
Oh, I think I forgot to mention. They estimate that she will die within 30 days. So
Okay.
they need to beat Dio within 30 days. So they travel from Tokyo to Shanghai, and from Shanghai to Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong they use a boat until they get to India somehow. And along the way they fight a bunch of other stand users
Hmm.
until they get to Cairo.
Does this all take place in like one episode or like
No, this takes place in a one season.
the whole journey?
Yes.
Wow,
The
okay.
journey from Tokyo to Cairo is in one season.
Wow,
And
okay.
there's another season where it's just in Cairo. And in Cairo, we get an additional ally. Because Joseph thinks that the five of them aren't enough to beat Dio. So they call in like an extra person. Or, I
Hmm.
mean, I guess not a person. An extra stand user. And this stand user's name is Iggy.
Okay, never mind. Not
It's not a person.
it's just a dog.
It's
It's
just
an
a
actual
dog. It's literally a dog. It can't talk,
dog.
but it can understand human speech. Why do you think I put two pictures?
One looks younger and one looks older. Is
Okay.
that it?
I feel like you said something before. I'll answer that question first.
Wait, so this dog has a stand?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so two pictures.
Mhm.
Explain.
So when we're first introduced to Iggy, he looks
Mm-hmm.
like this.
Mm-hmm.
And after some episodes, they just decided to change how he looks, so he just looks like this.
How did they find the dog?
They knew this dog was a sand user, so they
Mm.
just put this dog on a plane and flew this plane to Cairo
Wait, they put the dog just on the plane
with a pilot,
individual.
like a private plane. I think this dog is from America.
Okay,
So from US to Cairo, is that far?
yeah, it should be the same 16 hours-ish. That's the same distance.
So his stand name is called the Fool. If you
Mm.
asked me what it does, I would answer I don't know because it doesn't do that much. I know it can shapeshift, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the extent of what I know about the Fool.
What are the stats on the left?
I think this is like one of them is power, one of them is speed, one of them is development potential, one of them is range.
I can confirm that C is speed. I mean, wait, why are there same letters? Like, there's multiple C's and D's.
Like this is the how strong it is. It's a B rank. How fast it is. It's a C rank.
That's the rank. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
The rest is too blurry to read.
We have these stat screens, but they're so inconsistent, they might as well not exist. So, in the first half, all the Sand users were named after tarot cards. But now that they're in Cairo, all their enemies' stands are named after Egyptian gods. And they fight these they fight all these Sand users, and they finally make their way to Dio's mansion. And once they get into Dio's mansion, they're split into two groups. So we
Okay.
have these three guys in the middle, they're in one group,
Mhm.
and these three are in another group. And they fight this person. His name is Vanilla Ice. He's actually named after an American rapper. The rapper's name is also Vanilla Ice. Do you want to
Yeah.
guess what his stand's name is?
Is it? It should be also Egyptian. Is it?
No, no, it's not Egyptian. It's not Egyptian.
And it's also not tarot.
It's not a tarot card, yes. Think
Then it
of
could be
Vanilla
any.
Ice. Think of Vanilla Ice.
Oh, Cream.
Yes, his stand name is Cream.
Cream is actually a name of a rock band too.
Yeah, it is. That's why.
Oh,
That's why it's a name.
oh, oh. So two reasons. Just the Vanilla Ice and then also the rock band. Okay.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure the author wanted to use Cream, and they saw that a rapper's name was Vanilla Ice, so they just put it together.
Ice.
This guy is Dio's most loyal servant that we know so far. Dio tells him to prove his loyalty by cutting his own head off, and he just does it.
What head is he using now?
So, because Dio saw how loyal he was, he turned him into a vampire. So now he's a vampire.
So he grew his own head back.
Yes. Within like after 5 minutes of exploration, he realizes that there's an enemy nearby, and within 5 seconds of realization, he's dead. So this guy's ability is able to devour anything. Like
Okay.
imagine a ball, right? Like imagine
Mm.
the eraser tool from Photoshop. That's his stat.
Okay.
But he turns into the ball. And after a very long and traumatizing fight, like imagine like this like 6 foot 6 pack really buff guy just like kicking the shit out of like a small dog. Like it's
Mm.
it's really bad. So yeah, they're dead,
Wow. Okay.
and he's barely alive. But eventually he dies from the sunlight.
That's stupid.
No,
Okay.
because he didn't realize that his weakness was sunlight. Because Dio didn't tell him he's a vampire.
That's stupid.
He, yeah, he just thought that he's able to regenerate now. So originally, they all entered the mansion together, but these three like fell down. Eventually, they make their way to Dio, and these three guys found out that this guy and the dog died,
Mhm.
and Dio decides to escape for some reason. Oh no, no, I remember why. I remember why. So, at when they entered the mansion, it was like afternoon.
Mhm.
So if Dio were to fight them, he would be disadvantaged because if they break a wall, the sunlight would just pour through, right?
Yeah.
So Dio decides to run away until it's night before he decides to fight them. Yeah, and Dio just kills this guy immediately, and he almost kills Joseph. Like he drains like 90% of Joseph's blood. This guy, he's too injured to participate in the fight, so he can't do anything.
Mhm.
So it's literally just a 1v1. Yeah, and after a bunch of plot twists that I don't want to reveal, Jotaro wins. Dio is
Yeah.
actually dead this time. And that's the end of part 3.
Mm.
Honestly, if you watch through it, it's really boring. Like I just skipped through like one whole season with this thing. They just fight a bunch of people. That's like season 1.
Yeah.
And none of those fights matter.
Mhm.
The only fights that actually matter is the fight between Jotaro and Dio. So that's the end of part 3.